Southern Indiana takes on Incarnate Word. Absolute banger to start the day, 12:30 Eastern tip-off. Incarnate Word's -8, totals 149.5. We're 5-0 in our last 5 college basketball tier package plays on my premium page. 80% in our last 15 in that same package. Incarnate Word's 2-2 on the year. Southern Indiana is just 1-3. Now, the Screaming Eagles are shooting just 38% from the field. Definitely struggling turning the ball over. USI is in the bottom 40 in the country in offensive turnovers. And they're facing a mighty Incarnate Word squad who actually forces nearly 13 turnovers a game on defense, limiting opposing teams to just 43% shooting from the field. The Cardinals are also coming fresh off a nice cover against Indiana, where they held the Hoosiers to just 69 points. Now, total-wise, it's Southern Indiana who saw unders in all of their qualifying ball games. If you end up betting on this game, shame on you. You've got a gambling problem. I like Incarnate Word -8, under 149.5. Next matchup, another banger. Illinois-Chicago taking on High Point, 2:30 Eastern start. High Point's -8, totals 156.5. High Point's 4-1 on the year, scoring a whole lot of points. Panthers are averaging over 95 points a game. Top 10 in the nation in shooting from the field. Rob Martin scoring over 15.5 points a game, 41% from beyond the arc. And Cameron Fletcher, 17 points per contest himself, 60% from the field. They're facing an Illinois-Chicago team who just failed to cover against Chicago State. Give me High Point -8, over 156.5. Next matchup, Arkansas Pine Bluff taking on Marshall, 4 o'clock East. Marshall's -19.5, totals 167 and a hook. Marshall's 3-1 on the year. Arkansas Pine Bluff is 0-6. The Golden Lions allow 96 points a game, bottom 20 in the nation in defensive field goal percentage. And they're facing a Marshall team on the other side who's actually making nearly 50% of their attempts from the field. Definitely shooting it well from long range as well. Wyatt Fricks makes 50% of his three-pointers, team leader in scoring. Meanwhile, the big man, 7'4", Matt Van Komen, he's averaging a dozen points a game, 84% from the field. He's just like reaching his arm up and just throwing it in. I think Pine Bluff is going to have a tough time with Van Komen here today. Now, Marshall with overs in their last 2 straight. Pine Bluff with overs recently against Vanderbilt and Loyola Marymount. I like Marshall -19.5, over 167 and a hook. Next matchup, Memphis-Purdue, 6 o'clock East. Purdue's -16.5. Total is 158 and a hook. The Boilermakers are averaging nearly 90 points a game, top 25 in shooting the 3-ball. Fletcher Lawyer knocks down 51% of his long balls, 17 points a game. And Braden Smith, he's averaging over 17.5 points per night himself, 40% from downtown. They're facing a Memphis squad on the other side who's giving up 82 points a game themselves, 317th in defensive field goal percentage. Now, total-wise, both schools with overs in 2 out of their last 3, respectively. I like Purdue -16.5, over 158 and a hook. All right, next matchup, Elon taking on Miami. Not sure if it's on the big screen, but that's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start. The Hurricanes are -21. Total is 161.5. And Miami's 3-1 to start the year, doing some great stuff on the offensive end of the floor. Miami's averaging nearly 90 points a game, top 5 in the nation in offensive field goal percentage. True Washington makes 42% of his three-pointers, 14 points a game. And Malik Renault, he's averaging 21.5 points a night, 52% from the field. They're facing an Elon team who allows over 80 points a game himself, 311th in defensive field goal percentage. Elon with overs in all of their qualifying ball games this year. Miami with overs in 3 out of their last 4. I like Miami minus 21, over 161.5. All right, next game, Texas Southern taking on Vanderbilt. That'll be a 7 o'clock Eastern start. Vandy is minus 36.5. Total is 149. Total is 169 and a hook. Vanderbilt 4-0 in the year. Texas Southern 0-4. And the Tigers did fail to cover in all 4 of those losses. I'll tell you what, they've been horrible on defense, allowing 93 points a game, sending way too many shooters to the foul line. As a matter of fact, Texas Southern is in the bottom 3 in the nation in free throws allowed per game. They're facing a Vandy squad who's making 75% of their free throws themselves, 40% shooting from 3-land. And no real surprise, the Commodores are a top 25 field goal shooting team. Tyler Tanner makes 47% of his deep balls, 15 points a game. And Duke Miles leads the roster in points per contest, 53% shooting from the field. Both schools with overs in 2 out of their last 3, respectively. I like Vanderbilt minus 36, over 169.5. All right, next matchup, Chicago State taking on Iowa. That's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start. Iowa's 32.5, totals 146 and a hook. Iowa's 4-0, Chicago State 0-5. The Cougars give up over 86 points a game, getting themselves into a bit of foul trouble. Chi-State's in the bottom 25 in free throws allowed, and they're facing an Iowa team who's had little problems getting to the stripe this year. The Hawkeyes are in the top 20 in free throws made per game. They're also the best field goal shooting team in the country. Tavion Banks averages double-digit points a game, 79% from the field. And Bennett Sturts with nearly 20 points a game themselves, 47% from downtown. Iowa with overs in 3 out of their last 4. Chicago State saw overs against Butler and St. Louis. I like Iowa minus 32.5, over 146 and a hook. All right, Tennessee State taking on Tennessee. That's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start. Tennessee's minus 31.5, totals 151 and a hook. The Vols are 4-0 in the year. Tennessee State just 2-2. The Tigers allow 77 points a game, 302nd in defensive boards. And they're facing a Volunteer squad who's making nearly 52% of their attempts from the field. Jacoby Gillespie makes 40% of his 3 balls, 16.5 points a game. And Nate Ament, he's averaging over 19.5 points per contest himself. Vols with overs in their last 3 straight. Tennessee State with overs against Western Kentucky and Belmont. I like Tennessee minus 31.5, over 151 and a hook. All right, next matchup, Bucknell taking on St. John's. That's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start. St. John's is minus 30.5, totals 157 and a hook. Now, the Johnnies are averaging 99 points a game, top 40 in the country in shooting from the field. Jackson and Sonnen make over 42% of their three-pointers combined. Zuby Ejiofor leads the program in points per game. And they're facing a 2-3 Bucknell squad who does not force a whole lot of turnovers on defense, having a tough time guarding the deep ball. The Bison allow nearly double-digit three-pointers a game. Now, total-wise, it's St. John's who saw overs in 2 out of their last 3. Overs against the likes of Alabama and Quinnipiac. Give me St. John's minus 30.5, over 157 and a hook. All right, next game, Pitt, UCF, 7 o'clock East. The Pitt Panthers are -1, totals 155. And the Panthers are 4-1 on the year, doing a terrific job on defense. Pitt's limiting opposing teams to just 35% shooting from the field. They're actually in the top 15 in fewest field goals allowed. And because of that, they're officially in the top 20 in the nation in fewest points allowed. And they're facing a UCF squad who failed to cover in 3 out of their last 5. Failures to cover against the likes of Oakland, Vanderbilt, and Hofstra. And when it comes to the total, both schools with unders in 2 out of their last 3, respectively. I like Pitt -1, under 155. New Mexico, Nebraska, 7 o'clock East. Nebraska's -8.5. Totals 151 and a hook. And even though the Cornhuskers are 4-0, they are facing a pretty good New Mexico team who's 3-1 on the year themselves. It's a team who's playing some very tough defense. The Lobos allow just 63 points a game, top 15 in fewest field goals allowed. The Lobos saw unders recently against East Texas A&M and Texas Arlington. Meanwhile, Nebraska with unders against Maryland Eastern Shore and West Georgia. I like New Mexico +8.5, under 151 and a hook. Next game, Western Michigan taking on Ohio State, 8 o'clock East. OSU's -28, totals 156. And even though the Buckeyes are 4-0, they did fail to cover in all of those victories except one. It's a Buckeye team who does not force a whole lot of turnovers on defense. As a matter of fact, they're in the bottom 15 in blocks per game. And they're facing a Western Michigan team who's averaging 80 points a game on offense themselves, doing a nice job shooting it from the stripe. Jalen Griffiths makes 82% of his free throws, 16 points a game. And Jaden Brewer leads the program in points per contest. Nearly double-digit rebounds a night as well for him. Broncos with overs against Campbell and Coastal. OSU with overs against Purdue, Fort Wayne, and IU Indy. I like Western Michigan +28, over 156. All right, next matchup, South Dakota taking on Missouri. That's going to be an 8 o'clock Eastern start. Mizzou is -28, totals 172.5. The Tigers are 5-0 on the year, best field goal shooting team in the SEC. The Tigers are making over 56% of their attempts from the field, top 15 in the nation in shooting the three ball as well. Jacob Cruz is making 61% of his long balls, dozen points a game for him. Anthony Robinson, 13 points per contest himself, 52% from downtown. They're taking on a South Dakota team who allows nearly 80 points a game. And when it comes to the total, it's Missouri, who saw overs in 3 out of their last 4. I like Mizzou -28, over 172.5. All right, next contest, Oral Roberts taking on Oklahoma, 8 o'clock Eastern start. OU's -25, totals 163.5. Now, the Sooners are just 2-2 on the year, failed to cover in all of those contests except one. OU's having some issues on defense. The Sooners are allowing 81 points a game, bottom 15 in defensive turnovers. They're facing an Oral Roberts team who actually does a nice job getting to the foul line. They like to shoot the long ball as well. ORU's averaging just about double-digit 3 balls a game. Luke Gray is making 40% of his deep balls, 84% from the stripe. Ty Harper leads the program in points per game. When it comes to the total, Oklahoma saw overs recently against Nebraska and St. Francis, PA. I like Oral Roberts +25, over 163.5. Next game, Wake Forest, Texas Tech, 8:30 Eastern start. And just give me a second here, guys, as I recalibrate my notes here. Once again, Wake Forest taking on Texas Tech, and that's going to be an 8:30 Eastern start. Texas Tech is -8.5, totals 156 and a hook. Texas Tech is 3-1 on the year, doing some good stuff on defense. They're limiting opposing teams to just 41% from the field, 28% from three-land. As a matter of fact, they're in the top 40 in fewest three-pointers allowed, and they're facing a Wake Forest team who's shooting just 32% from three-land themselves. Failed to cover recently against Moorhead and American University. Now, total-wise, Texas Tech saw unders in their last 2 straight. Unders against the likes of Milwaukee and Illinois. I like Texas Tech -8.5, under 156 and a hook. Next game, Ryder, Houston, 9 o'clock East. Houston's -39, totals 132.5. Houston's 4-0 on the year. Ryder just 1-3. The Bronx failed to cover in all of their qualifying ball games this year. Bottom 10 in the country in points per game. When it comes to shooting the basketball, well, Ryder's been 0 threat shooting it from long range. They're averaging just 4 made 3 balls a game, 23% from beyond the arc. And unfortunately for them, they're facing one of the toughest defensive teams in college basketball, arguably the toughest. And they've been arguably the toughest defensive team for the last couple of seasons. They're allowing just 55 points a game, 36% from the field. Cougs with unders in 3 out of their last 4. Ryder with unders against Rutgers and Virginia. I like Houston minus 39, under 132.5. Cal Poly, Utah, 9 o'clock East. The Utes are minus 12. Totals 168.5. Utah's 5-0 on the year, averaging 87 points a game. And aside from being in the top 35 in field goals made, they've also done a terrific job giving themselves second opportunities. The Utes are a top 25 offensive rebounding team. Keanu Dawes averages 11 boards per contest, dozen points a game. And Terrence Brown averages 24 points per contest himself, top 5 in the nation in points per contest. Now they're taking on a 2-3 Cal Poly team who's kind of played real shaky on defense. You know, the Mustangs give up over 85 points a game, bottom 10 in 3 balls allowed. Of course, their opponents are averaging nearly a dozen 3-pointers a game against them. Poly with overs in their last 2 straight. Utah with overs in all 5 of their contests themselves. Give me Utah minus 12, over 168.5. All right, next contest, not on our big screen, but it's going to be really the biggest game of the night, the most important game. Not sure why it's not up there, but Mississippi State taking on Kansas State, 9:30 Eastern tip-off. Mississippi State's minus 3.5, totals 160 and a hook, and both schools doing some real good stuff on the offensive end of the floor. For Mississippi State, they're in the top 25 in 3 balls made, doing a great job with offensive boards. As a matter of fact, the Bulldogs are in the top 3 in offensive rebounds per game. Sean Jones averages 7 boards a night, 41% from 3-land. And Josh Hubbard leads the team with 22 points a game. Meanwhile, Kansas State on the other side, well, they've been excellent on the offensive end of the floor themselves. The Wildcats are averaging over 93 points a game, top 10 in the country in offensive field goal percentage. P.J. Haggerty leads the nation in points per game, 40% shooting from downtown. Johnson and Castillo drilling well over 58% of their 3-pointers combined. Wildcats with overs in all of their contests this season, overs against the likes of Tulsa, Cal Golden Bears, and UNC Greensboro. And when it comes to selecting a winner in this one, we're letting Brock Page Nation decide this game. This game's being featured as my free poll on my YouTube channel. All you got to do is go to the post section and vote for free. All you have to do. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, I like the over 160.5. Next game, another one not listed on the big screen, but it's going to be St. Joe's taking on UNLV, 10 o'clock East. The Rebels are minus 8.5, totals 159 and a hook. UNLV got the W in 2 out of their last 3. Victories over the likes of Memphis and Chattanooga. And during the 3-game stretch I just mentioned, UNLV averaged over 95 points a game. They've been great offensively. Isaac Williamson shoots 46% from outside the perimeter, 18 points a game for him. And Kamani Hamilton's averaging 15 points a game as well, 52% from the field. They're facing a St. Joe's squad who lost their last 2 straight. They actually failed to cover in all of their contests this year except one. And in St. Joe's last 2 games, the Hawks allowed 89 points a game on average. Now, total-wise, St. Joe's with overs against Drexel and Lafayette. UNLV with overs in all of their contests themselves. I like UNLV minus 8.5, over 159 and a hook. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Troy, USC, 10 o'clock Eastern start. USC's minus 18.5, totals 157 and a hook. The Trojans averaged 98 points a game, top 20 in the country in free throws made per contest. Baker Mazzara makes 85% of his foul shots, 43% from 3-land. And Rodney Rice is scoring over 18.5 points a game himself. They're facing a Troy team who allows 81.5 points a game, troubles guarding that deep ball. The Trojans are currently 310th in defensive three-point percentage. Now, they also saw overs in their last two straight, overs against San Diego State and Cal State Northridge. I like USC minus 18.5, over 157 and a hook. And with that, folks, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like Incarnate Word minus 8, under 149.5. High Point minus 8, over 156.5. We're 5-0 in our last 5 college basketball tier package plays on my premium page. 80% in our last 15 in that same package. Marshall minus 19.5, over 167 and a hook. Robert Morris plus 11, over 147. Indiana minus 34.5, over 159. Purdue minus 16.5, over 158 and a hook. Stony Brook minus 4.5, under 137. Northern Kentucky plus 5.5, under 145. Miami, Ohio minus 15, under 143. Pacific plus 8.5, under 158. Miami Hurricanes minus 21, over 161.5. Vanderbilt minus 36, over 169.5. Iowa minus 32.5, over 146 and a hook. Tennessee minus 31.5, over 151.5 points. St. John's minus 30.5, over 157 and a hook. Colgate plus 5, over 163. Northeastern plus 3, under 149. Pitt Panthers minus 1, under 155. New Mexico plus 8.5, under 151.5. Long Island plus 4, under 147. Queens College minus 5.5, under 151. North Texas minus 16, under 135. Western Michigan plus 28, over 156. Missouri minus 28, over 172.5. Rice minus 2.5, under 146. Oral Roberts plus 25, over 163.5. Texas Tech minus 8.5, under 156 and a hook. Houston minus 39, under 132.5. Utah minus 12, over 168.5 points. I like the over 160.5 in that Mississippi State-Kansas State matchup. UNLV minus 8.5, over 159 and a hook. And give me USC minus 18.5, over 157.5 points. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. Going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks that Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that, happy Thursday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.